With so many big projects funded by private capital from overseas, the prospect of a hung parliament has major implications for investment. I spoke to Peter Beattie, the former Queensland Premier and ex-International Trade Ambassador. Peter Beattie, thanks for joining Late Line Business.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Should business be worried about a hung parliament?
The answer in the long term is no. The short-term problem is communicating that. And when you consider that Australia is an international trading country and has very important international links around the world, what's important is that our political leaders, along with our business leaders, send a very clear message once agreement is reached with the independents that it's business as usual. I don't want to be personal about this, but years ago when I had a minority government, I said we would govern as if we had a majority of 10. Whoever forms government in Australia has to send a message that notwithstanding they are a minority government, they will govern as if they have a majority of 10. That is really important because political instability is death when it comes to business, trade and obviously deals around the world.
Look, you've been in the United States and having looked at Australia from the prism of trade in the United States, what does this do to market and fiscal stability?
Look, it raises concerns in a lot of people's mind, and the jury will be out. And that's not just North America. I spent a lot of time in Latin America as well, where we've been forging new markets in quite a number of countries. And with their history, they look very clearly at stability. Stability is really important in terms of internal investment, in terms of buying exports, because people worry about supply. It is a very important period in Australia's history that we send, if you like, vibes that are very positive about stability. One of Australia's great success stories, if you like, or one of our assets, is our political stability. Now, the last thing we can afford to do is allow a perception of instability. And talk of a new election within a year or a few weeks or a few months is death when it comes to trade and doing business. It's not good. And our political leaders have got to simply pull back, think about business, think about how we present our face to the world, because our presentation can mean investment opportunities and jobs.
Will it halt investment, or have you heard concerns from the United States? I can't imagine that if you were the Trade Commissioner at a trade fair today, it would be easy to convince businesses to come and invest in Australia when there's so many uncertainties, from everything from climate change to the broadband network to paid parental leave.
Look, none of those things are good, to be perfectly honest, the instability. But I don't think anyone has withdrawn any investment. I mean, that would be crazy to suggest that. That's not happened. What happens in these circumstances, everybody just puts things on hold and they wait and have a look. They wait until they see which direction things turn out, whether it's going to be stable or whether it's going to be unstable. I mean, I frankly think some of the talk about having another election within a short period of time is very unhelpful in the national interest. So what's happening is people are looking. They're looking at Australia, looking at what's happening politically, and that will have an impact on business. And anyone who suggests otherwise doesn't understand the realities of international trade and business.
Well, the Business Council has come out saying they want it sorted by Friday. Is that likely, though?
Well, it may not be likely, but frankly, it makes common sense. The Business Council's absolutely right. The longer this goes on, the more it damages our international reputation. I mean, stability and a secure place for investment, secure place to buy exports from and do business is one of Australia's strengths. And at the moment, it's at risk. What we have to do is send a message of stability and certainty. And both the Prime Minister and the Leader of the Opposition have got a clear obligation to make certain that that stable message goes out. They've got to be saying, which is the reality, that this is what the Australian people voted for and they will make it work. And the fact we've got some independents sends a very strong signal that it's different from normal, but that those independents can form a stable government or a stable alliance with the majority governing party. So everybody's got an obligation to send a positive and constructive message, and I can't understate that. That is absolutely essential for our future.
Internationally, there have been a number of hung parliaments and they've had many tough decisions to make about the economy. For example, the UK. Can it work?
Well, I think it can work, but I was in the United States when the British election result came in, and that sent a lot of negative vibes. Now, the proof is always in the pudding. I believe it can work. I mean, on a smaller scale, obviously, the Queensland government, we were in a minority circumstances for a number of months after an election, and we reached an understanding with Peter Wellington, who was a genuine independent, and these independents that are being talked to now are genuine independents. And we reached a very sensible understanding. Some changes came out of it, like community cabinets and some parliamentary reform, but he provided stability by guaranteeing support for supply. Now that's really important because therein lies the recipe for stability. So what I'm basically saying is, of course it can work. And those people who say it can't work don't understand the parliamentary system. It does require goodwill, it requires common sense, but this does need to be resolved as quickly as possible in the national interest. If this drags out, then that will be destabilising in terms of our international reputation, and the Australian Business Council is absolutely right.
Peter Beattie, we'll leave it there, but thanks very much for talking to Lateline Business.
That's a pleasure.